Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson and welcome to the channel. So this is another at-home video I'm doing on my travel channel because it's Halloween night, it's the final week of Halloween Horror Nights and all the major Halloween events at theme parks. And originally I had plans to go to Knott's Scary Farm because I did Halloween Horror Nights, I did Dark Harbor, but unfortunately a lot of things were happening where I just couldn't fit that into my schedule. So maybe next year, but for today's video, I actually want to talk about kind of things I'd like to see at Halloween Horror Nights in the future. Because I've been to Halloween Horror Nights nearly every year since 2006, with the exception of 2012, 2013, and 2022. And having been to this event several times, I started coming up with ideas of what I personally would like to see at Halloween Horror Nights. And this is all just like, if I were in charge of Horror Nights, this was what I would put in, with no restrictions at all. These are things that are probably never going to happen, but hey, a guy can dream. I'm going to be listing off 5 things that I would love to see at Halloween Horror Nights in the future, or at the very least, if I were in charge of it. Now, I should probably mention that Universal Studios Hollywood is my home park, so some of the things on this list are more catered to how Hollywood does HHN. But since I was finally able to do HHN in Orlando last year, some of the other elements on this list, I will explain how it could work in Orlando as well as Hollywood. And without further ado, let's get started. The first thing I want to see at Halloween Horror Nights, or I guess I should say here at Halloween Horror Nights, is a Disasterpiece score. I'm a big fan of movie scores, and Disasterpiece did one of my favorite scores from the last decade for It Follows. And then he also did an excellent score for Bodies, 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 which came out 2 years ago. And ever since I first heard his score for It Follows, Halloween Horror Nights immediately came to mind because it's chilling, it's atmospheric, it has some electronic beats to it like the old synth scores from the 80s. There's so many places throughout Universal Studios Hollywood and Florida where there's a heavy sense of atmosphere, there's not a lot of scare actors, and if they are, they're hiding in the background. And I think a score from Disasterpiece could work perfectly for Halloween Horror Nights at either park. The second thing I like to see at Halloween Horror Nights, and this is more tailored to Hollywood, is bigger sets. One of the things that I did not see coming when going to Orlando's HHN for the first time was how massive some of the sets were. Like the Yeti house from last year. There's giant sets that are not covered up by a tarp, so the houses just feel that much bigger. And in Hollywood, they don't really do that. They have the tarps up, and there are some houses where they do feel quite big. I remember 10 years ago, there was an Alien vs. Predator house that felt so much bigger because it was built inside a soundstage and they had more room to work with. I kind of want to see more houses like that at Hollywood. If you look at all the black tents that they set up in Hollywood, they're pretty small compared to the bigger tents that they have in Orlando. And I know this is because Hollywood doesn't have as much room to work with as Orlando, but again, this is more of this is what I would like to see if there were no restrictions. So this is something that I know will probably never happen for Hollywood, but it does happen for Orlando, so at least we have that. The third thing I want to see on my list, and this is going to be different for both parks, is more of a Jurassic Park presence. I always felt like Jurassic Park as a franchise was ripe to use for Halloween Horror Nights. And apparently when Orlando held their Halloween Horror Nights at Islands of Adventure, they actually did a Jurassic Park scare zone or house at some point. I don't know the exact details of what it actually was, but apparently the background was that it was a bunch of dinosaur-human hybrids running around. So maybe not that, but I think Jurassic Park needs to have a bigger presence during Halloween Horror Nights. And here's how I would set that up. This year at Hollywood, they have the Eternal Bloodlines house set in Soundstage 12, where they filmed some of the original Universal monster movies. But they also filmed Jurassic Park in that soundstage. If Universal wants to keep using that soundstage for Halloween Horror Nights, or in the years that they can, then I think a Jurassic Park house would fit perfectly. Just have a bunch of scare actors dressed as dinosaurs, even if it's from the waist up. That would make for a pretty incredible house. And plus, the way to get to Soundstage 12 to go to the Eternal Bloodlines house is through the Jurassic World queue. So you're basically going through Jurassic World to get to Jurassic Park. So that's how I would set it up for Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood. Now, as for Orlando, this is where things get a little tricky because Jurassic Park is at Islands of Adventure, not Universal Studios. And I know the easiest thing to do. It's the easiest thing in the world you could do. Open Islands of Adventure, at least that section, for Halloween Horror Nights. Hear me out. So at Diagon Alley, they have the Death Eaters roaming around. Just open up Hogwarts Express for Halloween Horror Nights. And that way you have Death Eaters invading Hogsmeade as well. And the Wizarding World of Harry Potter Hogsmeade is the most direct path to Jurassic Park. And just set up the entire land as a scare zone. Add more dinosaur sound effects throughout the land. Have scare actors dressed up like dinosaurs. You don't even have to build a house because there's not a lot of space in Jurassic Park to actually build a house. But I think turning that into a scare zone would be great. And then you just have barriers to keep people from going to the Lost Continent or Toon Lagoon. And I think if they do that for Orlando, that would work out perfectly. Having both Wizarding Worlds open during Halloween Horror Nights as well as Jurassic Park with scare actors, that would just be an incredible experience, I think. The fourth thing I would like to see at Halloween Horror Nights, and this is something that I know will never happen, I kind of want to see a Cocaine Bear themed Terror Tram or haunted house because Orlando doesn't have the Terror Tram. Is it a ridiculous idea? Sure it is, but after seeing the Yeti house last year, which also was the year that Cocaine Bear came out in theaters, I think they could make something like that work. Just go over the top with it. If you're doing a house, just kind of do what they did last year with Yeti, but make it Cocaine Bear themed. And as for the Terror Tram, it's already outside in the wilderness next to the mountains and the woods, so you already have the setting for that. Plus, through the Terror Tram, you go through the War of the Worlds set. That plane crash could represent the plane that was holding all that cocaine that got all the bears high on cocaine. That's an easy idea right there, and I think, again, it's never going to happen because Cocaine Bear is a cult film. I enjoy it myself, but I know a lot of people don't. I think if you did that, if that were to ever happen, they probably can't call it Cocaine Bear, but luckily the international title of the film is Crazy Bear, but I think that would be a hilarious house and Terror Tram experience. And now we come to number 5, and this one is more catered to Hollywood than Orlando. Hollywood needs more original icons. Now, Orlando has built itself around the original characters, like the director, some of these other characters I'm not too familiar with, and of course Jack the Clown. And those two icons, the director and Jack the Clown, actually were at Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood when the event returned in 2006. The director was in 2006 and Jack was in 2007. But after that, there was a long period of time when Hollywood just didn't do original icons that basically represented Halloween Horror Nights each year. They've had certain themes, don't get me wrong, but it's one of the things that makes Orlando's HHN so spectacular is that they have all this lore surrounding the event and these characters. Now, in the past few years, Hollywood has introduced a few original characters. There was Hollywood Harry that was part of the Terror Tram in 2016, 18, and 2022. And then just last year, we had the Exterminator for the Terror Tram. And the studio tour is always regarded as like the signature attraction at Hollywood. And logically, the Terror Tram is the same for Halloween Horror Nights. So having the Terror Tram be led by an original icon every year, I think would definitely make things more interesting for Halloween Horror Nights. Even when the director and Jack the Clown made their appearances at Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood, their backgrounds were changed for Hollywood. So if they wanted to introduce some of the Orlando icons to Hollywood, they could easily do the same, but I think making original characters for Hollywood's HHN from the ground up would be a lot more impressive. I feel like out of all the things I've talked about on this list, this one is the most realistic because we're starting to see that happen at Hollywood. I would just like to see it happen more frequently. And with that being said, that's my wish list for the things I would love to see at Halloween Horror Nights in the future, or if I was in control of it. The next video won't be a vlog, but it's something that I really want to talk about, considering that there's a specific holiday, I guess, coming up. Not Thanksgiving, but something coming up in a few days. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Thank you for being subscribed to the channel. If you're not, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel, especially if you're a fan of theme parks, and make sure to hit that bell button to get a notification when a new video comes out. If you like this, make sure to give this video a like. And I want to hear from you guys in the comments on what you would like to see at Halloween Horror Nights in the future. Even if it's something that you know will never happen, I would like to hear your HHN wish list. And if you want to find me elsewhere on the internet, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads, and my movie review channel right here on YouTube. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day, take care, and safe travels.